This is the Washington Times front page for Wednesday, November 16th, 2022. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. Top European leaders say the missile that killed 2 people in Poland on Tuesday appeared to be an unfortunate accident and not a deliberate attack by Russia on a NATO member. Guy Taylor reports NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said the incident was likely a Ukrainian air defense missile fired at a Russian cruise missile. The missile ended up landing on a grain silo facility in a Polish town less than 20 miles from the Ukrainian border. U.S. officials said President Biden, who's attending the G20 summit in Indonesia, was briefed on the incident and spoke by phone with Polish President Andrzej Duda. Former President Trump has announced a third bid for the White House amid a divided Republican Party. Susan Ferricchio and Seth MacLachlan report he pitched a unified movement to restore America, which he said would be built on issues, vision, and success. Trump told the crowd he will need support from a broad coalition to help him win a second term. The 76-year-old defied former campaign aides and even some in his inner circle who hoped the poor showing of Republican candidates in the midterm elections would dissuade him from an early 2024 announcement, or at least until after a critical December 6 Senate runoff in Georgia. That poor showing is spread to the GOP's campaign machinery, as Ronna McDaniel's future as head of the Republican National Committee has been called into question after the party's disappointing midterm showing. Seth reports it marked another electoral setback for Republicans on McDaniel's watch, and it fed into lingering concerns that her close ties to Trump, including the RNC's decision to cover some of his legal bills, have hurt the party more than they've helped. McDaniel has never faced a contested election, but that could change. New York Congressman Lee Zeldin has been urged to consider running after he put up a strong showing against Governor Kathy Hochul. Others have suggested South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. You can read all of these stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page. You can also find our entire lineup of news, commentary, and sports podcasts at WashingtonTimes.com/podcasts. Xbox says its new approach to cracking down on content yielded 4.78 million proactive enforcement actions in the first half of this year, compared with fewer than 1 million in all of last year. Ryan Lovelace reports the Microsoft-owned gaming platform said most of those censorship actions were directed at inauthentic accounts. That represented 4.3 million of the 4.7 million enforcement decisions Xbox took against gamers. Enforcement actions typically involve a temporary suspension preventing someone from playing a game. The unauthentic accounts sought to manipulate players with spam, attempted to cheat at games, inflated friend and follower numbers, and did other things that would create uneven playing fields for gamers. The rest of the enforcement actions involved restrictions on adult sexual content, fraud, bullying, profanity, phishing, and hate speech. The U.S.-China Economic Security Review Commission says China is increasing plans for military, economic, and political warfare against Taiwan, and the U.S. needs to step up preparations and planning to respond to a future war across the Taiwan Strait. Bill Gertz reports the commission called on Congress to create an executive branch panel to prepare economic sanctions that can be imposed on China in response to military action against Taiwan. The congressionally chartered panel also wants Congress to require the Pentagon to produce a classified report on the U.S. military forces needed to resist a Chinese attack on Taiwan. And finally, FBI Director Christopher Wray pushed back against charges that his agency has lost credibility with mismanaged investigations. Stephen Dinan reports the House Homeland Security Committee hearing was to look at worldwide threats to the United States, but Wray went out of his way during his opening statement to lay out the basic domestic law enforcement work that his agents do. Wray said if critics are correct about the agency's dimmed prestige, the FBI would be struggling to attract new agents. As it is, recruitment has been strong. Find all of today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Washington Times in any major podcast app. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. The Washington Times, I'm George